Alright, so let's just go ahead and get started right into this. You already know how my tier lists work. A, B, C, D, F down to the worst, and A is the best. So we start off with Wandavision, which, you know, when I first heard about this, I was like, so we're getting a series starring two Avengers where one of them is dead, and it's a 1950s sitcom. Like, what is this? And it actually turned out to be one of the greatest things in the MCU, where you look at all these other things, like I always see people that, like conversations about Star Wars, that Star Wars was inspired by old Star Wars, and Star Wars was inspired by other things. WandaVision's not inspired, was not inspired from the past MCU. This is inspired from like 50s sitcoms themselves, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s. And, you know, I besides the sitcom aspect of it, the performances, you know, Elizabeth Olsen, this is probably the show that really got me invested into the Wanda character more, where now that when I watch the projects that I included her before, it makes me like her just so much more. Granted, that kind of changed when I watched Doctor Strange 2, but I kind of wish I can go back to the 2021 era, because that era was peak for Marvel. But yeah, so for me, as to where I'm going to go with WandaVision, you know, it's pretty great. You know, I kind of missed that hype week where it's like we were theorizing every single week. And it is a show that I have kind of forgotten about because I have other things to watch. So, at the same time, it's still great. It does kind of get a little flaky in the finale, but I still do like it. So you're going to go in the A tier for me. I think that this is one of Marvel's best shows. Even though it has a bit of issues, one of the best. And then we get Falcon Winter Soldier, which was another show I was actually really excited for, because obviously WandaVision did such a great job with doing these side characters and making such great stories for them. And, you know, that I was interested to see taking these two sidekicks of Captain America and putting them in the spotlight. How do you do that? And I think they actually did it really well, where you did Sam Wilson becoming Captain America, but not just becoming Captain America, he's a black man becoming Captain America. And I thought that was just such an interesting concept to do. Plus, you also got Winter Soldier, you know, having nightmares about his Winter Soldier days. Even had a theory with the whole multiverse thing going on, that I was like, what if those Winter Soldiers are from, like, other universes? Like, those actually happened. Like, those are other universes where those things happen, and those things happen differently. And he actually went on to be Winter Soldier again. And then, of course, you know, John Walker. He's a great character. I'm excited to see him in the Thunderbolts film. The action is pretty superb. The Flag Smashers and Carly Morgenthau, I thought they were okay villains. They were good. I think that, you know, the finale could have been a lot more epic. I feel like the action could have been a bit more better, but I think overall it is a good series. Not my favorite, but still a good series. Then we get Loki. Now, I know a bunch of you absolutely love Loki, and I myself too was kind of excited for it, because I'm like, I loved WandaVision, I liked Falcon Winter Soldier, and one of the best things about these shows were taking these side characters and exploring different sides of them, and that's what kind of Loki did. I'm like, the Loki stuff I think is great. I think his interactions with Mobius is great, and, you know, introducing this whole time variance authority and stuff like that, like, okay, that's an interesting concept to do at the end of Endgame, to make this world bigger. But here's where my problem goes. I think once again, to like the third episode, it just turns into this whole thing, like, we're turning into variants and all this stuff. And it just, like, I like the Sylvie character. It was nice to get a sort of a tease to Kang variants. But I don't know if, like, it just transitioned to all these different stories. Like, okay, we're not variants. Okay, okay, the timekeepers aren't real. Oh, we gotta find out who's behind all this. Who's behind time? Like, it like kind of rushed it. I think that's part of the reason why the 6-episode thing doesn't work, because it just doesn't do well. It's like, you could have had some, like, and I understand we're getting a season 2, and it's probably gonna complete this story, and like the cliffhanger is like, it was so confusing. It's like, this is outside of time. So I would assume that there was only one version of this. So, I don't know. It left me very underwhelmed, and I'm like, once this season came to a close, I was like, I'm done with this. I want this to end. I want to watch more other something else MCU. I just want to watch What If right now. So I still liked it. There's still some enjoyment value to be had with this show, but I just did not overall like dig it as a whole. But it is still good, so you're going and see. And then we get What If, which honestly, this show is really being hated for no reason. Because now, if I can understand if you don't like certain episodes. Me and myself, in particular, I don't like the Thor or Loki or Killmonger episodes. But you saying that this is like one of the worst things in the MCU? What are you talking about? This is such a clever idea for a show, and it really, mostly it works. Like the idea of changing, like the fact that this is the next Disney Plus show after Loki, which just introduced the multiverse. Well, not introduced, but it set up the multiverse. It opened the multiverse. And then you get What If, and it basically explores that, except in different timelines. And you get these different things where characters, where you get introductions to new characters like Captain Carter, T'Challa as Star-Lord, not Black Panther. You get a zombie episode, which I'm still shocked that we get that in the MCU, except it's in another universe. But we still have some beloved characters today. This show gives you fan service, and then even if you weren't a fan of a character in a film, you get some development in this show, and get those comic accurate stuff in this show, especially the Ultron episode where you actually get great Ultron. So, and then of course Jeffrey Wright as the Watcher in here, I thought was he's a great narrator, and he needs to do more voice acting, and his voice fits for animation. I think a lot of, and then of course, the animation style I thought worked. I think overall a lot of things worked for me. I just wish it connected more to the MCU. Like when we got Doctor Strange 2 and we heard Captain Carter was going to be in here, I was like, oh man, they're bringing in live action Captain Carter, and then we're bringing in Supreme Strange. And then you realize it wasn't. It's two different versions. I'm like, is this show really just an anthology series, and we're never going to see these characters, like those versions of those exact characters in live action? Kind of disappointed by that, but I think overall it is a good series. It does have episodes that you will like and episodes you won't like, but I think overall of what it's trying to achieve, it is a good show. So I liked What If. I don't know about you, but I liked it. Then we get Hawkeye, and honestly, when I first thought about it, I was like, how are you going to do a Hawkeye series? Because nobody's really interested in this, and I was kind of underwhelmed with Loki. And I liked What If, but I'm like, I kind of forgotten as to how you can do this type of show. And then I started thinking about all the ideas. Like, he was Ronin, so they're going to explore this. You got enemies, because he's been Ronin the last 5 years, he's made a lot of enemies as Ronin. And then, of course, you're introducing Kate Bishop. You're introducing all these different new characters. And just kind of doing a different type story in the MCU that's interesting. The action is fun. Just exploring more of Hawkeye, like doing the trick arrow stuff. Like having a little car action sequence where you get Kate Bishop shooting trick arrows at the bad guys while chasing them. It's just so great. It's so, the way the camera is shot, it's so fantastic, and I absolutely love it. And then of course, just the arc that she goes through, even connecting with the end credits scene of Black Widow, I thought was great. The whole Kingpin stuff, I understand people are underwhelmed by that, but I think it was kind of like an understatement for Kate Bishop's character, because she wanted to be this big superhero. She was a huge fan of Hawkeye, that inspired her to be this great archer, and she finally got to stop a supervillain by herself, and everything that Hawkeye taught her, even though she did get a team up with Hawkeye on the ice, it was still great. Overall, I thought that this show was fantastic, and even certain episodes, I'm like, they were good, they were fine. I still love this show, and honestly, if I'm being honest, the only weak aspect of this show is I just wanted more episodes. I hope we get a season 2, hopefully, maybe. So that's my thoughts. So it is definitely my favorite Disney Plus show. It's the best. Then we get Moon Knight, and I was kind of excited for this because this is the first Disney Plus show that actually has a new main character, where 2021 was kind of like the new main characters for movies with Shang-Chi and Eternals. Now we're getting new shows with Moon Knight, Ms. Marvel, and She-Hulk. And I thought, of course, the best thing about it was, of course, Oscar Isaac as Stephen Grant, Mark Spector, he's fantastic. I think the girl that played Layla was great, and even turning into the Scarlet Scarab was badass. I think A lot of the action sequences when they happen is great. The usage of Moon Knight was good when it happens. I think the overall story itself, and also Ethan Hawke is great as the villain. I forgot his name, but I like how he's a different type of villain where he's kind of a doctor, so he's trying to help our hero. So it's kind of interesting. I think the biggest problem with it is it doesn't know exactly what kind of story it's trying to be. Like, it was its first introduction to supernatural isms in the MCU, and I don't know if I was a really big fan of that. It kind of did some weird stuff, and then it just kind of felt a little rushed. It was kind of confusing at times, and overall, it was just kind of weird, I guess. I kind of will say, though, by the end of it, I actually did like the finale more. So I guess you could say I was a little bit more satisfied with it. So I'm actually putting this above Loki for me. Plus, the 5th episode with Stephen Grant and Mark Spector's backstory was actually heartbreaking. Then we get Ms. Marvel, and of course, this is kind of a definitive show that I have my thoughts on. Of course, Iman Vellani is fantastic as Ms. Marvel, like Kamala Khan. She's great. Even I was watching the Captain Marvel 2 trailer last week, I was like, she's having so much fun with this character, and the fact that she's also like making a comic for this show to do the mutant story, I'm like, this character is gonna have so much fun. I'm enjoying this version of the character. And then of course, just kind of exploring the Pakistani superhero. It has all this stuff that I like, but first off, this show has a lot of issues. I think the first episode was good, but I don't think there was a simple episode that like hooked me, because like the story is just so off place. I forget to mention her powers. Her powers are horrendous. Her powers are so horrendous where they look awful. Like, you thought Thor Love and Thunder looked bad? Her powers and the CGI, every single piece of CGI in this show looks awful. And even that they decided to change her power set of, like, she still has big arms and a big in, but they're energy based because they don't want to make it confusing when the Fantastic Four come in and Mr. Fantastic comes in. What do you mean? Like, sure, they both can stretch out, but there are two different power sets because one can stretch and one can stretch and turn their hands big and smash and a big in. You think people are gonna find that confusing? Really? And honestly, I'm not. The fact that you change her origins from being a Inhuman to an X-Men, I'm not a fan of that, because I'm like, everybody's getting so excited for the X-Men now when no one was excited when Patrick Stewart, that's his name, Patrick Stewart. Wait, is that his name? Wait, Patrick Stewart, when he came back to play Professor X, I'm like, no one was excited for when he came on screen, but everybody's excited for X-Men now that Ms. Marvel's an X-Men? Like, that's so weird. I don't like the change of her comic origins. I really don't. Even though, like, I'm excited for the Marvels a little bit now, like, I'm still not over the energy-based powers. I still do like the performance of Kamala Khan. And I'm hoping that the CGI in her power set is a bit better in the movie, considering it's going to be used in a creative way. So, and then also the usage of characters was just bad. The show was just kind of a show that I could not like. It had good things, but mostly it was just not a show I really liked. So, unfortunately, I'm going to put this in the D tier. I'm sorry, people. I know you like Ms. Marvel, but that's just me. Then we get I Am Groot, which a lot of people don't really include this show because it's more of a shorts. It's more of a series of shorts, but it's a series of shorts. And they all have the title of I Am Groot in them. But they all have different titles, so it's a series. So I'm including it, even though they're separate shorts on Disney Plus, like Forky asked a question. But I included it, but honestly, if you were tired of the Phase 4 projects and all the bad stuff, this is by far my favorite project of 2022 MCU. It was like the only project where I was like, this is perfect. Like, obviously, it has nothing to do with the main MCU universe. Sure, it takes place during, like, the first two Guardians films. But you're just having fun with Baby Groot. That's all it is. It's simple, it's fun, it's funny, it's nice. It's a nice break from the travesty that we've been getting in the MCU. So, I actually loved this series, and I'm excited for season 2. you're going in A tier. I loved Am Groot. Then we get She-Hulk, which is possibly the most divisive show on this entire planet. First off, of course, Tatiana Maslany as She-Hulk, fantastic. Loved her performance. The whole story itself was just terrible. I mean, just the way that they did it, I mean, everything just felt lazy to me. The characters, there's even some fun characters. I did like that you did her family, you introduced this new friend. It was like, we have the Barbie movie, and it's like focusing people on men. And I heard a lot of like similarities between this and She-Hulk, and I'm like, I can kind of tell what that is. And it's like, it tried to tell some messages between like men, like women deal with anger more than men, but like we don't know how women are. It's like, now I can't really say that because I'm not a woman, but like we don't know how they are. So it's like, it's very divisive, and I don't even know if they really explored that plotline great. And also, you know, and also like the whole series, everybody just wanted fan service characters coming in. Like once Daredevil came in, like everybody loved it. Like when the first episode came, they're like, "No Daredevil, hopefully we'll see you next week." And then next week, no Daredevil next week, we'll see him next week. The next week, oh, they tease his helmet, we'll see him next week. And then when they finally get him, like, oh, this is the best show ever! This is the best show ever! And to be clear, when that episode came, I did like that episode. That's probably my favorite episode of the entire series. And that was probably like the only good episode along with the finale. And even the finale, well, did kind of feel lazy. I thought it was kind of clever at the same time. And this show does kind of have a lot of clever stuff. But at the same time, it just didn't have a clear focus as to what it was trying to be. And most films and shows can handle certain stuff like that, but this show just was trying to be so much, and it just didn't know what it was trying to be. So for that reason, She-Hulk is going in D, but honestly, I'm going to put it above Ms. Marvel because I actually didn't hate She-Hulk like Ms. Marvel. I mean, like everyone else did. But I still have my issues with it. It's still a bad show. Then we have Secret Invasion, which of course, after not having Disney Plus shows for a couple months, I thought this was a great comeback for the MCU. I thought it took that Winter Soldier tone that everybody loved, mixed it in with the Secret Invasion plotline, did something different with it, and made a personal show for that where you get the first 2 episodes, great. And I think throughout the series, it had a bunch of issues, but it kind of had the same stuff I liked about Hawkeye, where I was intrigued throughout the entire thing. Like, I noticed some issues, but and some of them do kind of affect my experience of the show, but at the same time, I enjoyed it. I really did. And even though the finale was not the greatest, I still did really love it. I'm going to give it an A-. So for that reason, I'm going to give this, as to where I'll put it, I'm going to put it, I'm going to put it here. I think Am Groot is great, but it's not really a thing. And that is my tier list for Disney Plus shows. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. All my social media stuff is in the about section over there. And I will see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.